Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Linda's Who Plants For You. I want to take a moment to thank you all for your subscriptions, my new subscribers. I got a few over the last week, and I just wanted to say I really appreciate that. Today I'm going to talk about pots. My daughter left a comment on one of my videos and asked me to explain the difference in pots and how you know when to use what. So hopefully, and I have to, do the whole disclaimer thing here. I am not an expert on plants or pots. What I'm telling you is based on my experience, and most of the time it works for me, sometimes it doesn't. So it's not a sure-proof way, but it sure has helped to learn these things over the years, to know what to do and not to do. In most cases, sometimes I'm at a loss myself, but I'm gonna share with you what I do know, and hopefully that'll help some of you that are new to the plant world. I know it's growing leaps and bounds just like it did back in the early 70s, and I hope it continues. I hope it doesn't fizzle back out like it did then. I got a hunch it's going to stay with us for a long time, for many reasons that I won't go into right now. But let's get down to the reason for my video. And well, first I gotta flip my flipper on my camera so I can see what you guys see. Okay, let's start off with defining terracotta, shall we? Terracotta has been used interchangeably for a number of different things. The original terracotta comes from two different words, and I forget what they are, but the Terra and then the Cotta, I guess, is the other half of that. Basically, it's to describe the earth, the clay from the earth. The color, over the years, this has been come to be known as terracotta in color. And truly that really wasn't the original. The original Latin definition is not that, but it doesn't matter to us, does it? We just want to be able to understand the terms well enough to know what to use and when to use it, and that's really what this video is about. I want to start off with this beautiful pot that I got at a store called the Science Store. I don't know if you guys have those anywhere else. I tend to think it's probably a one-of-a-kind, but at any rate, they sell really odds and ends stuff of all different things, a lot of medical supplies and just little goofy things that you wouldn't find anywhere else. And this pot, they had this pot there. I fell in love with this the first time I saw it, but I wasn't having a very good day that day, and I couldn't even think about what I wanted to do. So I didn't. I left it. And it was one of those things where, over the years, you realize that when you really, really like something and you see it in the store, you should just get it, because otherwise you're going to kick yourself forever. This was one of those items. I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I told my husband, if you get by there, because that store's kind of far away from us, I said, if you get by there for any reason, please, if they have these, grab me one. It was $4.99, folks. I mean, what was I thinking? I should have just bought it in the first place. But I think the thing that was preventing me from doing that was it is a terracotta clay. Meaning, it's not, number one, it's not waterproof. Number two, I didn't want to ruin the beautiful painting on here by putting water in it. And there's not enough room in the top for me to put an actual pot. So I think that's why I passed it up the first time. But as you can see, I've got a beautiful heartleaf philodendron, golden pothos is what I have in here, even though it's not so golden anymore, because it doesn't really get enough light. So, but that's the way I did it. Is I used a water bottle, just a regular 12-ounce water bottle. I cut off the top, which is the firmest part of the bottle, and I filled it with soil, and I squeezed it down in there, and my plant is just taken off. So, you know, you can find different ways of displaying your plants and growing things. It doesn't absolutely have to be that it was made for that purpose. But anyways, this pot, I keep calling it terracotta, and I did have somebody ask me about it a while ago and said, but that's white. Yeah, it is, but the terracotta is simply means it's earth and clay that's been low fired between, I think it's 1100 and 1900 degrees, which is pretty low. When you put things in a kiln, they're fired at a much, much higher temperature to get the hard, you know, non-porous type of pot. This is terracotta. It's not terracotta in color, but it's a terracotta clay. It's very soft. It's very porous. If it didn't have this coat of paint on it, it would breathe. And setting this aside, we're going to look at some of those right now. This is also terracotta, and it too is very porous. And they come in all different sizes. You can get them in little, I've seen them smaller than this. I've had them tinier than this. I've had them 1/3 the size of this, actually. And they all broke on me. I had them sitting in my flower cart that I have in the dining room, and I eventually knocked them over and broke them, and that made me sad. But nevertheless, this one happens to come with the holes in the side. I don't like those, but when I needed this size pot, that's the only kind they had, so I ended up getting it anyway. And it's really not a big deal. I just don't like the way it looks. It's too contemporary looking for me. I love old stuff, as you probably all know. This is a good type pot for orchids, because it's going to dry out really quickly and let the moisture out and let the air in. So that would be a good pot for that. And then they do come with saucers. However, you have to be careful because, and I did notice that they are starting, in this one, not one of them, but they are starting to glaze the bottom of these saucers. And I'm sure it's because people quit buying them, because there's no point in having a saucer to protect your surface if it's porous, because the water is going to drain out of that pot into that saucer, and eventually the bottom of this is going to be wet. So that's something to watch out for. But like I said, they are making these now with a glazed bottom, which just means it's a hard painted, shiny painted surface. Waterproofing. Okay. Then we have this. I got this at a thrift store. There were 3 of them there, and they were, I believe I paid $1 a piece for them. And I had a perfect place for these when I bought them, but I no longer have that table or that setup. But anyways, this is pretty neat. It's got flowers on the sides. I don't know if you guys, oh yeah, you should be able to see that. But somebody painted these. They weren't like that new, I don't believe. But anytime you put a coating on a terracotta pot, you're taking away the advantage of that fact that it's a breathable pot. So keep that in mind. It doesn't do any good to buy terracotta if your reason for doing so is to have a breathable pot and then put paint on it. So keep that in mind. This is also a terracotta pot. It's gray, but it's terracotta material. It's a low fire clay. The original low fire clays came from, I believe, out of India. I believe. I'm not positive on that. And it's a red clay to begin with. So that's probably the red-orange color. That's probably partly why this has this name. But it has kind of grown over the years to include other colors. This is still a terracotta clay, as it's known for. It's a breathable pot, and it has also the matching saucer. So that is the same as these. Then we have the glazed, and I'm sorry, but this is the only glazed terracotta that I own, and it's almost done for. If you can see, let me see if I can find a better spot here, where the paint is wearing off and peeling off of it. That's the quote-unquote glaze that was put on there. You can see it really good on the bottom here. And that will waterproof it. So, you know, if you have a terracotta pot, you like the size, whatever, for whatever reason, you're in love with that pot, but you don't want it to be waterproof, water permeable, then, you know, by all means, get out your paintbrush or your craft paints or your spray paint cans and go ahead and spray them. But you're really kind of defeating the purpose then. Then you might as well just go buy one that's already glazed or plastic, which is what we're going to get into here. These are considered terracotta color, but they are not terracotta pots. They're plastic. And I do utilize these because I do like the look of terracotta. I love the earthenware look. I just really like the down-to-earth things in my life. I'm not into the contemporary look, although I do have a healthy respect for that look. We've got a few YouTubers here that do an awesome job with their collections. I want to mention them right now too. One of them is, she used to be Peggy's Tropical Gardens, but now she's, I believe, called Peggy's Plants. And she's got just awesome displays. And again, it's not my taste for my home, but if somebody wanted me to decorate their home in a contemporary way with plants, she is one that I would send there. Another one I just saw the other day, Cat Plants Meow, I think is the name of it. She's got a video where she redid a room, and the before, I was in love with the before, and I thought, oh, what is she going to do in there? Well, she did a really good job. She said she was going to paint one of her walls black, an accent wall, and I just cringed. I thought, oh my goodness, a black wall, that would be so depressing. But you know what? When she got done with that, it was gorgeous. It was really gorgeous. And again, not my style, but I don't take it away from that. We all have our own way of doing things, and that's wonderful, isn't it? People that are more like me, Suzette's Gardens, one of the things that attracted me to her channel is her decor is a lot like mine. She has a lot of antiques, and you know, it's got more of the old world look, which is what I'm attracted to. So, like I said, it's all, you know, whatever your pleasure, that's your prerogative, and I definitely respect that. Okay, so that's that on those. Then we have our kind of our nursery pot, plain plastic. They have really come a long way with these folks. Look at the drainage on the bottom of there. Isn't that fantastic? I love that. This one didn't have the, or it may have. Oh yeah, I bet it did because I'm looking at the bottom. In the middle of this, you can see 3 long slits right in the middle. Attached to that is usually a saucer. And I had several of these. I'm going to have to look and see if I can find the saucer that goes with this, because I really need a pot this size right now for one of my hanging plants, but I don't have a hanging basket. And these are good because they, you know, they have the drainage tray right down here, so you don't have to carry your plant over to the sink to water it. This is another example of glazing. This is our pen holder here, so excuse the dust. I did not clean it before I stuck it in your face, but that's okay. I just wanted you to see what that looks like. That's a shiny glaze on there, hard glaze, and this is a very, very heavy pot. And it is not going to breathe, obviously. And last but not least, my most unfavorite thing are these white hanging pots. Again, I have seen people that have done their whole plant world in white pots, whether they be plastic, ceramic, whatever, and they're beautiful, they're gorgeous. But it just wouldn't go in my house. It would stick out like a sore thumb. And I really love the way the plants look against the white because there's a big contrast there. However, whenever I look at a setting where there's where it's dark everywhere else, but then you have a white pot, all I see is the pot. I don't see the plant. So I don't know what the key is to using the white vessels, but that's just something. I do use them because I don't have much choice as far as hanging pots. I guess if I went on Amazon, I could probably find some darker ones, but I don't do that right now, so I'm not going to bother. But I wanted to just give you a little little history on the different types of pots that we have here. And then real quick, I want to just say, the question that I got from my daughter was, how do you know which pot to use for which plant? Let me see if I can put this up here where you can get a real good look. There we go. The answer is experience, trial and error, and research. I do a lot of research, especially if I have a problem with my plant, or when I get a new plant, I want to learn all about it. I want to know everything about it, and I don't remember everything that I learn or everything that I find, but after a few times of doing that, a little bit starts to stick in your head. It's kind of like when we were growing up and going to school. I forget who it was that said this, but it was somebody that people highly respected that did a study and said we actually only remembered like 1/8 or something like that of what we learned growing up in school. 1/8 of what we were taught. So don't feel like if you're doing the research and say, well, I read it, but then I forgot it a week later. That's normal and that's fine. You'll remember it when you need it. And the more plant videos that you watch, the more information you're going to get. Now, a little word of caution there, that information is not always the best. There are some, I hate to say this, but there is some information out there that is really just dead wrong. And I cringe when I hear it. I feel bad about it because I know that the person saying it believes it, and the person hearing it is going to use that information. And as I'm watching, I'm talking to the TV and saying, no, don't tell them that. But again, it's a learning process. And if you really do want to be a plant mom, not just a decorator with plants, there are people who don't care and know about their plants. They don't want to know. They just want a quick, give me an index card and tell me when to feed it, how much, and when to water. And when it needs repotting, I'll bring it by you. There are a lot of people like that, and that's okay. They just want to have a few plants in their house for to bring a little of the outside in and use them for decor, much like restaurants and office buildings and things like that. But for those of us that are truly in love with plants and really want to see them thrive, it's important to learn this information. You'll know when you check your plants, and I don't look at my plants every single day, folks. I'd love to say that I do, and I try to, but sometimes my health doesn't allow that. And when that happens, I get real nervous because I worry about them. And I know it sounds silly to some people because, they're plants, they're not people. but they become very important to you if you are in the situation that I'm in. And otherwise, there's other people that aren't. They're out in the working world and they care just as much for their plants as I do. But I guess in direct answer to your question, as far as watering, if you have a plant that has fine roots, those roots do not want to be wet. They don't want to be damp. They don't want, so if you put your finger in the soil and you pull it out and there is soil stuck to your finger, that's too wet. Dry soil means dry soil. It should fall off when you pull your finger out. You should be able to go like this with your finger and it'll just fall off dry. Keeping in mind that there is a fine line between wet and perfectly moist and too damp. And that, my friends, you can only judge by doing. Nobody can, we can show you that a million times and it's not going to matter because the degree of moisture that's in that soil, you cannot measure on your finger. Now, if you're a real worrywart as far as this subject goes, use a moisture meter. Learn how to use it. They make different kinds. They have some that have the light. You can measure the light, you can measure the pH, and you can measure the moisture. If that's too complicated, then get the one that's just a moisture meter. I believe they're like $4 or $5 at Menards. And learn to read that. You know, it'll say dry. You know, there'll be like a red zone where it's getting in the dry zone, but it's not quite dry yet. Learn how to read that. Use it every day. Then you'll get a better feel for. It'll come to a point where you'll be able to walk by, stick it in, go, oh, okay, this needs water. It won't always be that hard, but the initial part of it is a learning curve, and unfortunately, there's no quick way to do that. You're just going to have to do this on a daily basis. Excuse me a moment. I was getting dry and I didn't want to cough in your ear. Okay, so one of the things that I learned too over the years is there are certain plants that just plain don't like terracotta, and I don't know if it's something in the firing process. I don't know if there are chemicals used when they put that together, whatever holds it together, or if it's just water. I don't know, but for some reason, my calatheas or calatheas, however you pronounce it, do not like anything but plastic. I learned that the hard way. After losing the same plant 3 times, I started to question what was going on, and it definitely is a humidity. It was getting too much humidity and too much moisture in the soil. However, when I had them in terracotta, I think I was overwatering. And so I stopped doing that. I let them dry out all the way to the end. That didn't work. I mean, I tried so many different things with those plants, and it was a constant struggle to keep them looking nice and keep them alive. Then I decided to put them back in the nursery pots, in the plastic pots, and lo and behold, they started to perk up, and now they're thriving like crazy. And I don't mist them. I don't have high humidity. It was all about the pot that I had it in. So those pots, they are important. They're important to figure out what your plant really wants. The other thing is when you have plants with tuberous roots that hold a lot of water, that soil might feel dry. It might be completely dried out like a desert dust. But it may not need water just yet, because it's holding a lot of water in those fat tuberous roots under the soil. So that's why I said there's no, you know, quick, short way to describe to anybody what is the correct way, what is the correct pot type. There's just no way of no right or wrong. You have to just see by your own trial and error method. Just like I did with this plant. And she needs water right now. I can tell just by feeling it. I know I can tell. And that's another way I might mention right now is when you start lifting up your pots as you're going past them, you get to know how heavy they feel when they have how much moisture in them or when they're dry just by lifting the pot. And that's kind of the method that I use. That, and I use my finger, and sometimes I can just tell by looking at the soil and knowing in my head, gosh, it's been about 4 days since I watered that. I better really check that one better. Plants that need to dry out quickly, that want a quick drink of water, and then they want their roots to be dry, do best in terracotta, in breathable pots. And others that don't not mind, or they like the soil to be kind of evenly moist, those you want to put in plastic. And succulents and cacti, most of them, and I have to qualify that with most because there are exceptions to these in every plant world. Most cactus and most succulents I let dry out down to the nitty-gritty there. I never water them if that soil feels at all moist. And most of my cacti and succulents are in terracotta. I have the best luck with that, and so I just keep using it. And I have to also mention here that, you know, there was a time when I was a chronic overwaterer. I killed more plants overwatering because I was constantly wanting to, you know, play with them, if you will. I wanted to be around them. I wanted to touch them, and I wanted to take care of them and nurture them. And I think I nurtured them to death because when you overwater a plant, there isn't much you can do. If you underwater a plant, the plant usually lets you know that it's sad and it's not feeling good. And when you walk over there, and you know, I see my plants every day. I see them, and I look at them, and it's like, what, that plant there's something just not right about that plant. And lo and behold, whatever was wrong, I'll find it, because they'll talk to you. They'll either droop, or they'll lose their shine on their leaves, or maybe they'll start to be curling up, or maybe they get yellow, or maybe the tips are starting to brown. There's so many different things that happen to plants that will let you know when there's a problem. And if you're paying attention to them, you'll see it. Just have to trust me on that. You will. I think that's really all I have for you guys today. And I like I said, I can't stress enough that everybody's home is different. Your humidity level is different. If you don't use air conditioning in the summer and it's humid in your area, your plants are going to probably grow like crazy, most of them. So it just really depends a lot on your environment, and I know I say that to the point where you guys are probably tired of hearing it, but I have to stress it because it's so important to the health of your plants. I think that's, you know, pretty much the bulk of it. Trying to think if I forgot anything, because 9 out of 10 times once I shut that camera off, instantly my brain will remind me of something I wanted to tell you, and I'm like, oh dang it, I wanted to say blah blah blah, and then I forget. So it's alright, it's not a big deal. If I do remember something that I didn't remember today, I'll mention it in another video. Or as always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. I appreciate both, you know, inquiries where if I can help you, I will do the best I can to help you. And I appreciate those compliments as well. They really go a long way for me. I'm not the kind of person that needs a pat on the back for everything I do in life, but I am human, and it's very, very nice to hear that someone appreciates, you know, what I'm doing and is getting something from it. And that's the important thing, that you're gaining some knowledge, or I'm helping you in some way to take care of those babies, and maybe, you know, help build your plant collection and what have you. Then I feel like I have a purpose in life. So I appreciate that. And again, if you know anyone who you think might benefit from my channel, please tell them about it, and hopefully they will subscribe, and maybe you can give me a thumbs up if you really like the video. That all counts towards my credit, folks, and I'm really trying to get that to that $1,000, yeah, I wish, 1,000 subscriber mark, and I'm at 905. It was the last time I looked, so I'm almost there. So I appreciate any help that you can give me along the way, okay? All right, well, I hope you all have a great, I want to say great weekend, but this is not going to air until tomorrow. Well, it'll still be the weekend. We're supposed to get some snow here. Maybe. They keep changing it, but it's either going to rain or we're going to get to 6 to 8 inches of snow. And we are right on the cusp of that line, so it could do anything by then. And that's Wisconsin, and that's one of the things I like about it. It's kind of fun, actually. So I'm getting ready to batten down the hatches and get cozied in here and enjoy the first snowfall. Well, actually it's the second, but the first one only lasted for about an hour and it melted. All right. Thank you very much for watching, folks. I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll be back. Bye now.